life-changing events will happen. What you do with them or about them is shaped by where you came from, and there are analogies, but not necessarily a direct line. Learn to ride that wave. You will be. There are high points, low points. Remember the good times and try to forget the bad. I'm Daniel Raas, and I go by Dan. I'm 73 years old, and I live in Bellingham, up on Alabama Hill. And we've lived in this house since 1991. And don't have any plans to move. And so we're certainly not out of Bellingham at this point, although both our kids, who are aged 36 and 42, live in Seattle. And the three of us have accepted the idea that at some point I'll probably move to Seattle. But right now I'm fairly self-sufficient. The first most change was getting married and then staying married to Debbie for 46 years plus. And certainly another change which I'm dealing with at the moment is that Debbie died 10 months ago. So, and that processing that is still a work in progress and will be probably for the next umpteen years. I had a stroke 20 years ago, which left my right side at the beginning totally paralyzed, and I've recovered some function, but certainly not as much as I had. I was a dancer in my youth, and had trained with a number of folk dancing groups and performed, and enjoyed it an immense amount. And I was also a musician. I played mandolin and guitar, and I dabbled in a couple of other instruments, none of which are translatable to being one-handed. It was the same body, it just wasn't working as well, and it wasn't working in the same ways. And it was a body I could no longer depend on to do things that I could do before. And it was a body that still was changing in various ways, and still is. And the physical therapists have an expected curve of how you recover from a stroke. It flattens but doesn't necessarily stop until you give up. Skip Johnson and I, who was my law partner, represented the Lummi Nation for about 39 years. We're now the elders. We have the institutional memory. And in particular, I'm mentoring one of their newer lawyers in the fishing case, which started in 1970. There's a lot of history and a lot of details in that. I'm still quite active with Beth Israel Synagogue. I became heavily involved in building this new synagogue, which took, still going on, about 20 years. Debbie always said that I always had too much to do. And one of her jobs was ordering that. Partially so she got enough time, but also so I didn't go crazy. Daily life has changed a lot over the past year, certainly. But keeping in touch with friends and family, that's critical. I was always a social person. I miss that a lot. I look forward to getting together with everybody. The kids during their college years, the our relationships changed from mostly being a parent to being a confidant and friend. I talk to them daily, each of them. At this point, it was once a week or so before Debbie got really sick. Debbie was a 3-time cancer survivor and was working on her 4th set of cancer. It's not what killed her, but I know a whole lot more about how the body works now than I ever thought I'd want to learn, and that's certainly still true. That part of my knowledge is interesting, but on the whole, I'd rather not have it. I can dream and do occasionally of having full use of my body. It's amazing how difficult it is to open an envelope with one hand, let alone writing the check, entering it in the check register. And Debbie had done all that. It takes me about 15 minutes to write one check from envelope to envelope. When I've felt the oldest, I've felt when I've seen opportunities that I could do and would be good at, but knowing that, sure I could, but I'm standing in the way of somebody 20 years younger who could do them just as well and really needs to flower.